And I'm really delighted to launch this first in a series of cotton research lectures on this World Cotton Day, the 7th of October. Now today would have been the last day of the World Cotton Research Conference, which should have been held in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. But as you all know, this had to be postponed to this time next year. And in the meantime, the ICAC, in conjunction with the International Cotton Researchers Association, ICRA, have decided to run a series of monthly lectures in the run-up to the WCRC next year. So, in order to launch this series of lectures with a bang and get you hungry for more presentations, we have invited two world-class cotton researchers to deliver presentations in this inaugural session, both of whom are amongst the most respected cotton researchers in the world, and both really don't need any introduction from me. Now, I'm going to introduce the first speaker in a second, and after he has spoken, there'll be an opportunity to ask some questions, and then I'll introduce our second speaker. So the two speakers are Professor Ibrokhim Abdurakhmonov and Dr. Hake. So let me start with Professor Ibrokhim. So Professor Ibrokhim Abdurakhmonov has been associated with the International Cotton Advisory Committee since 2013, when he was awarded the prestigious ICAC Researcher of the Year Award for his outstanding work on cotton genomics and biotechnology. Now, as a result of this award and the international recognition it afforded him, he was able to develop the Center of Genomics and Bioinformatics in Tashkent. Now, this is an impressive center that serves not only to conduct cotton research, but also includes a large number of doctoral students. And I was privileged to visit that center in 2017 when I first became executive director of the ICAC. And to add to his impressive lists of outstanding academic achievements, Professor Ibrokhim was appointed as the Minister of Innovational Development of the Republic of Uzbekistan in 2017. There's no doubt that... Can we mute the mics, please, Yana? There is no doubt that cotton has a formidable ambassador and pioneer in Professor Ibrokhim Abdurakhmonov. He understands the importance of cotton to global economies, and he continually strives to ensure that developing and least developed countries also have access to the scientific knowledge required to further their development. But most importantly, he is a truly world-class scientist who continues to drive innovation in cotton, despite his ministerial responsibilities. So with that, I'll hand over to you, Professor Ibrokhim.
And dear colleagues, it's really great privilege today to speak to you and share my little bit, opinions for future of cotton science in the world, and also what's going on in Uzbekistan. This is really good opportunity for me, and I thank you very much. So let me share the presentation. I will be very succinct. I will try put the presentation, and we'll start. Of course, in pandemics era, it's very challenging right now worldwide. And Uzbekistan also, we really see these challenges, not only pandemics, but global climate change era itself. It's very, very problematic for sustainable cotton farming in Uzbekistan, also in worldwide. In that challenging period, can you go next slide? In this challenging period, of course, there are lots of requirements, lots of needs for scientific development and application of new technologies that really change the game solutions that help sustainable cotton farming worldwide. Of course, you know, the pandemic has really influenced all the, you know, aspect of our life. And this slide really, I would like to show that this is a great threat for humanity, and being one of the cash crops, cotton also is suffering. Cotton research, if we take this kind of crisis in humanity, this kind of pandemics era crisis, and think that this could be turned to new opportunities that really can be achieved. Next slide. So, as again I highlighted, one of the other problems that we really very, you know, concerned about, maybe my colleagues who are listening today, they also approved this thing. This is global climate change issues. The increased carbon dioxide emission in global climate warming remains very important issue for food security worldwide, and also it affects lots of aspects of cotton farming, from morphology, physiological alterations in plants, enhancing photosynthesis and plant growth, reduction protein and nitrogen content, water deficiency, drought, and so many emerging new pathogens, increased pesticides. So really these two issues right now requires new application of new game-changing technologies that urgently should
Dr.
be
Ibrokhim, I'm sorry, Dr. Ibrokhim, to interrupt. We actually can't see your slides. The screen is going blank, so if you can kindly manage from there.
Sorry, I thought you were seeing the slides.
No.
No?
No, not as yet. I don't think anyone is able to see. I'm not sure if someone is.
Here.
No, we can't see any slides.
Yeah.
We are not on.
Sir, we can't see the slide.
Now you're seeing?
No. Yes.
Yeah,
Now
now
yes.
okay. Now it's
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you.
All right. Very sorry. Sometimes this technology is even where Minister of Innovative Development, sometimes it didn't work.
Thank you, Dr. Ibrokhim.
Thank you very much. So you are hearing my voice, okay?
Yes.
Sounds good, right? So what I thought I bring this highlights new kind of urgently needed technologies that could be very helpful for game changing in that problematic era that we're facing in pandemics period. Of course, this is not new things for anybody else, but I thought this is a very key thing to highlight. This is next generation sequencing technology. Very much needed, and we need to study the cotton genome, very good variations, alleles that quickly adapt for this kind of challenging climate or challenging period. RNAi technologies, I think it's very powerful, and CRISPR technologies, that genome editing, new generation genome editing technologies. Of course, we need lots of new technologies to assist farmers, like artificial intelligence that picking up in the whole scientific era, also for cotton, smartphone decision support, virtual reality, farmer training. This is very much needed right now, and our cotton scientists should be really focused on this kind of technology. But one of the game-changing, direction in cotton science, it's kind of my personal opinion, but lots of literature also shows this is cotton physiology. Without understanding cotton physiology and connecting all the genomics knowledge, big data knowledge to the cotton physiology, plant physiology, the challenges really difficult to solve. Why this kind of why cotton physiology? Because we see lots of drought problems, salt problems, insect problems coming up with the climate change. Yield, nutritional contents should be improved. Lots of more carbon from air should be utilized. Nitrogen utilization efficiency, plant maturity, flowering, all these are related. Of course, genomics and genome editing does lots of good things, does offer lots of good things, but they do offer lots of good things, but their relationships, plant physiology, kind of one of the new directions in science, physiological genomics development in cotton is a very key direction in the future. Will be right now it's a key direction, but will be more important direction for cotton science that really help us to sustain cotton production and develop precision and personalized agriculture for cotton. This is next slide. I really will not be stopping more details in the CRISPR-Cas system. All colleagues know the mechanism, but CRISPR-Cas system really right now in a beginning stage compared to other crops, but cotton science community doing lots of good effort, putting lots of good efforts and achieved lots of good results. For example, cotton fiber development is already regulated by CRISPR-Cas systems. One of the resistant genes for cotton, verticillium, will I know also use verticillium, and this CRISPR-Cas system will be very useful for disease resistance regulation. Creation new cultivars for disease resistance. This is, of course, one of the key future game-changing technology for our cotton. Of course, it should be related, kind of connected with the cotton physiology always. This is key point here. Next slide. Next slide, I would like to show this is RNAi technology. This is very kind of powerful technology. Of course, if you compare CRISPR-Cas genome editing technology with RNAi, more power you can see in CRISPR because you can really edit the gene very specifically and get the trait out very fast. But RNAi very powerful than CRISPR, it's my opinion, because when you shut down one of the genes using RNAi technology, you really generate lots of epigenetic effects. RNAi related, connected with a lots of epigenetic pathways that regulating one of the genes, you can see lots of downstream gene down regulation and super expression. That's why you can see lots of trace improvement at the one time. I will show one of the examples from our country that we're applying this RNAi, and lots of other colleagues already know what we're doing, but RNAi already applied for many trait regulations of fiber, fertility, abiotic stresses, biotic stresses, and etc. And seed quality, field trial, lots of technologies available. Next slide. Next generation sequencing will be really supportive for these two technologies. Whole genome, wide sequencing, exome sequencing, RNA sequencing technologies to really get the variations, mutations, and make markers, map the genes of interest, and use this candidate genes or markers in marker-assisted selection, quickly get new varieties that one of the varieties needed for farmers. In that context, new technologies really are developing for markers and cotton science, shifting from microsatellite marker already in candidate gene markers, SNP markers, and this is good support for genome editing and RNAi. We can find new candidate genes and edit them in available new tools. Next slide. Artificial intelligence for farmer assistance. In that new technological era, crop and soil monitoring, autonomous machines, automation of irrigation, price realization for farmers, target spraying, predicting best sowing time, all can be managed by using artificial intelligence technologies. Of course, this technology is available for many other crops, and in some crops they are ahead of cotton, and in cotton community also really right now I see one of publications they are concentrated on, but this is artificial intelligence concept for cotton science will be one of the directions that we all with you should think about. And this is new direction, and many countries right now in the start position to develop artificial intelligence concept for whole economy development sectors, not only agriculture, but agriculture is huge directions. In that regard, our ministry much more concentrated on this artificial intelligence concept right now for whole scientific directions, but we will be more concentrating on the cotton science itself, because cotton one of the priority crops for Uzbekistan. Next. Smartphone decision supports, of course, we saw when we were in ICAC meeting in Australia, in Cotton Cafe, there were lots of good technology shown already, and its leading technology for cotton is already in place right now. So smart technologies by many countries, by leadership of Indian Farmer Society using this technology very well, and I think this smartphone decision should be also used for cotton farming to sustain the cotton production, and in combination, of course, the other technology I already described. Next slide. One of the technologies should be very useful for cotton science, cotton farming. This is virtual reality farming, and we are right now almost available in all the countries. This is not new technology, and it has lots of huge power, because it's simple. It has a simple user interface. Great. It's very great for generating a three-dimensional image technologies. So virtual reality farming, and I would like to add also here one of the added reality technologies. This is virtual, but it's added reality technologies that we in the ministry itself. You can see also one of the movies later on. That could be useful for cotton and farming, helping your farmers, education, so forth. Next slide. In Uzbekistan, we really much more concentrated on this game-changing technologies, because Uzbekistan really suffers right now with big climate change issues, drought, salt, and very big heat stress giving for our farmers very hard time. Also, new emerging pests really are being problematic. So RNAi technology that we started earlier really helping us. For example, one of the RNAi technology for cotton fiber development, and also the cotton yield characteristics, improvement in cotton yield characteristics already in place. We have series of new varieties generated using these technologies. And next slide. This has already been patented, so it's available for other countries, and we would like to collaborate if any other cotton growing countries want to license this technology or collaborate this technology. This is RNAi based varieties. Next slide. Varieties developed in Uzbekistan, but we not only targeting only cotton fiber yield characteristics, but recently we developed new variety series that's highly salt tolerant, drought tolerant, and cold tolerant. One of the genes we really right now in the patenting stage. When we knocked out this using RNAi, of course, there are lots of epigenetic effects. We're seeing it when you manipulate this gene. It's a very much drought tolerant and salt tolerant because of turgor pressure regulation in its cotton cell. And of course, it has, when you have a turgor pressure, it has effect in cold tolerance too. Another technology we using RNAi developed, I should not use this terminology, but I like it. This is bulletproof technology, bulletproof cotton varieties fully resistant for wilt FOV disease. You can see in the slides, same time infected cotton leaves, ordinary controls are infected, but gets infected, but our new varieties, that's RNAi, they are bulletproof, they really resistant. So FOV, very much problem for cotton in Uzbekistan, became one of the problems recently. Now we have a solution. So down 1 or 2 years, this variety is both drought tolerant, cold tolerant, and salt tolerant, plus this FOV resistant plant varieties will be available for our farmers. This is RNAi, but we are working on the CRISPR version of this new varieties, of this gene, targeted genes. So it's in a downstream process right now, and we're working on very, next slide, targeted manner. Of course, you know, when I mentioned the cotton physiology, the global climate change, this is the carbon dioxide utilization capturing technologies for global climate change will be very, very much important, because you know, cotton is one of the crops that utilize lots of carbon dioxide. The problem, even cotton utilizes it in autumn when all the plants diminish it, after digestion process going on, the carbon dioxide returns to the weather. So there are very great need that we have to think about cotton varieties that utilizes more carbon dioxide but captures in the root system, like the suberines, they digest very slowly. They will not give back the carbon dioxide very, very fast manner. So this kind of suberine rich cotton varieties will be one of the game-changing directions also needed for cotton for all countries. And we're right now really much concentrated on this kind of fundamental research, searching for sovereign-like genes that express very highly in cotton genotypes, and develop this new varieties that captures carbon dioxide, but they cannot return fastly back to this carbon dioxide to the weather. This is another really much connected to this cotton physiology also. Again, I highlighted. Next one. This is one direction. And of course, in Uzbekistan, all our breeding programs right now modernized with a new technology that we call marker-assisted selection. We have lots of markers, of course, in the beginning, the microsatellites. Now we're shifting also SNP markers, but we have already released several marker-assisted selection derived new varieties in Uzbekistan farmers. This is serious variety you can see, and we very specifically introduced very important fiber traits in the background of Uzbek varieties, and they are really working in the field. And right now, this is in big commercialization period. We're stepping in because we increased all the receipts, and this is available for our cotton farmers. And all this because of research that we did, fundamental research with international partners from Texas A&M University, from Mississippi State University, Alabama A&M, and USDA-IRS at College Station, and USDA-IRS at Lubbock, Texas, and Mississippi Starkville. This is effect of result of international collaborative projects. This is but application of these results in Uzbekistan giving big things. So here my point, next slide, will be really in summary. I think this new direction should be applied and results should be shared with international partnership programs. And key thing I highlight, that's we have to, in pandemics era, in global climate change period, we have to really foster our international collaboration projects and share our results as open science. Share our materials, and Minister of Innovative Development, being a responsible organization for scientific development in the country, will be very much welcome all our partners to collaborate with us, and we value the efficiency of international collaborations. And whatever I showed today, some of examples of Uzbekistan results, and it happened because of international collaborations and because of help sharing the knowledge, efforts of many international researchers that we all know. If you have any questions, this is my final slide, summary slide. I think today, first at the end, I will really congratulate all cotton scientists with the World Cotton Day.
To introduce our second world-class scientist and speaker today, Dr. Hake. Now, Kate is the Vice President of Agricultural and Environmental Research at Cotton Incorporated, which is based in Cary, North Carolina, USA. And Kate is responsible for the Cotton Production Research Program, and he leads a team of 6 research directors who develop and support innovative problem-solving research with a network of 300 public sector scientists in order to increase the profitability and sustainability of cotton farming in the US. And it is in this capacity that he's been working with the ICAC and Dr. Kranthi to develop the ICAC's groundbreaking and innovative Soil and Plant Health app aimed at supporting small farm holders, primarily in Africa and Asia. Now, Keita has also held positions at Texas A&M University, the National Cotton Council, and the University of California. He holds 3 degrees from the University of California at Davis, and with that, I'm going to stop and let him demonstrate the depth of his knowledge with his presentation today. Keita, over to you.
Thank you, Kai. Can you see my World Cotton Day introduction slide? Excellent, excellent.
We can.
Good, good. It's an honor to follow Ibrokhim on this program and to be a part of ICAC. I hope that everyone is safe. I see many masks on. I've got my mask here with me. I'm right now staying with my parents after being tested to spend time with them, and so it's a very special time to be with loved ones, and I hope that all of you have that opportunity. So let me just jump right into digital technologies for cotton farming. You know, we heard a little bit about that from Ibrokhim, but let me go into 3 areas in a little bit more detail. We'll talk about digital technologies for research. We'll also talk about them for smallholder farming and for mechanized farming. Wonderful, wonderful time. And I want to call out right at the beginning, Dr. Ed Barnes, who leads our engineering department, provided much of the inspiration and the work for this presentation. I've included my abstract just for the record, but let's just jump into cotton's history, because disruption and disruptive technologies is our history. We know the history of the spinning mill displaced 1,000 workers for every 1 person working in a spinning mill. And that was a huge disruption for those 1,000 home spinners, but it opened up tremendous opportunities for the cotton industry, both producers and merchants and shippers and people that created contracts and quality assessment, but also for the consumers as well. Being able to wear cotton garments versus wool, I'm sure we all appreciate today. So that history of disruption really started with cotton. It's ongoing with many other disruptive technologies. These are some that have been in the media recently. Just to refresh our memory, obviously solar photovoltaic versus rural electrification, leapfrogging over rural lines, internet versus libraries, and now our libraries are now internet portals here in the United States. Obviously email versus the postal service, and cellular access versus phone lines. I think we also look at some wonderful continuation of disruptive technology for agriculture. And we've heard reference to these by previous speakers and previous forums, but the concept of having small robotic or autonomous vehicles that go through fields powered by solar systems or electricity that could interseed and weed and even harvest well for a scale size for farming. Obviously, the biological control versus chemical control. Agriculture is 10,000 years at least old, and only for approximately 100 years of our history do scientists think that chemical control will be utilized. And so we are seeing potentially within the next 30 years, the end of chemical control and back to biological control. That's going to be very disruptive, but a great opportunity for some of the technologies that Ibrokhim talked about. It's a wonderful day for gene editing. Those of you that are science geeks will know that Jennifer Doudna and Michel Charpentier were awarded the Nobel Prize for chemistry. Just super exciting. One is with University of California, Berkeley, and the other one is with Max Planck. And Ibrokhim went into the gene editing in quite detail, but that is going to be a very disruptive technology because it is utilized broadly around the world in various universities and by students. It's much easier than genetic engineering, more precise, and comes with a reduced regulatory burden, at least in the US so far. But I'm going to focus on the digital component of disruptive technology with data collection and processing, because historically farmers have accumulated their expertise over years and years and passed it down to their children, their sons and daughters, and relied very much on intuition and guessing. Is this year similar to what I saw 20 or 30 years ago? Is this outbreak of pest something that I recognize? And so digital has an opportunity to be very disruptive of that technology and push into a totally different operating space. We have a good example of how digital has already enhanced agriculture, and that's because the digital code of life that agriculture benefits from is shared with the #1 recipient of research investment, and that is human health. The sequences of the DNA and RNA and many of the coding sequences and non-coding are shared. And so the technologies that Ibrokhim talked about with marker-aided selection and detection of pathogens, those are the kind of things that we can bridge very rapidly for medical science because they are digital. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why cotton, more than other crops, really needs this digital disruptive technology to take hold. And one of the examples I have is from the previous World Cotton Research Day. On the field tour, the farm that we went to was very generous with their information and shared with us a list of the chemical inputs that had been applied to that field. And you don't need to see the details. I'm sure if you reach out to Brazilians, they could get it to you. But the important thing is that there is a massive amount of decisions that need to be made in season to keep cotton on track. And I also want to share the other image because that was taken less than 50 meters away from the sign, showing the stewardship that can be achieved with regards to crop protection chemicals. We had birds' nests in the field, and we all felt very safe walking into the field, other than a little worried about snakes in that field. But it's a very good example of stewardship, even with frequent chemical applications. Another reason that cotton needs that digital revolution is that besides making up a lot of decisions, the farmer needs to be site specific. Cotton production is the crop that does not handle a corporate structure where the instructions are passed down from the top to the farmer. Just the opposite. The farmer needs to be making the site-specific decisions because of the high variability. Just look at around the world, the soil variability is enormous. And in most of our fields, that same variability is replicated. And the third reason that I just want to convince you that that digital revolution is critical for cotton is heard about climate change and how that's going to be for agriculture. Clearly, cotton has a strong role, as Ibrokhim was talking about, with the sequestration, but also cotton being one of the most heat and drought tolerant crops, with the anticipated increased intensity of rainstorms and duration of drought. Cotton will have an even stronger role, but it needs to So let me just jump into the 3 technologies that I'm going to be talking about. I've been involved in all 3. And the first one is going to be for research. And again, Ibrokhim and I did not coordinate these talks, but they do synergize each other, because he mentioned the increase in diseases we're seeing around the world. And this is particularly true in my backyard in the US where I work, but I wanted to share with you this publication from last year highlighting the global losses in our major food crops from diseases. 17% to 30% loss from diseases. So it is a global problem that is actually uniquely challenging for producers, because as managers of crops like Keshav Kranti realize, most of the pathogens have to be managed before they get out of control. That it is virtually impossible to go into a field that's on fire from a pathogen and put that fire out. And so growers have to have the ability to look into the future and see, is this field going to need a prophylactic input? Is this field going to require the planting of a specific variety? Does this field need to have its surface residue sanitized and clean? You know, it needs looking into the future to manage the diseases. So the first technology I want to highlight for research is a major effort underway to give growers those tools. And up in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see the link. I'll give that to you at the end. I had the pleasure of being a little bit of the impetus to getting cotton into this program. And subsequently, I've handed off the chair of that responsibility to the real scientist, but I did have the pleasure of getting this going. And it's got 3 goals. One is to develop and validate the tools that farmers utilize to help manage diseases from a prediction standpoint. That's why the title, National Predictive Modeling Tool Initiative. A real mouthful, but it says a lot. The second thing is that it's designed to enhance the communication among the scientists and with all the various stakeholders. And the third is to make sure we have industry involved so that the tools that are created have durability beyond the 5-year funding cycle that we have. So this National Predictive Modeling Tool Initiative, it includes 3 crops, cotton, corn, and wheat, 22 different universities across the US with commercial and field sites. Very fortunate to have a central location to do the genotyping of the pathogens. That's critical to make sure that we're talking apples and apples and not apples and oranges with regards to pathogens and their mutations. A supercomputing center at Los Alamos is part of the initial, and we'll be doing much of the modeling and data processing. And we have both funding and leadership from the USDA, ARS. And as I mentioned, the private sector is very involved as well in the planning and delivery, because eventually they will be the ones likely to continue this. We started in 2020, and we all know the problems with COVID in 2020, but we were able to get some preliminary work done the year before. Now, I just wanted to show you what the individual sites look like. This is the one at Auburn University, where multiple varieties were evaluated for pathogens on a weekly basis. Spore samples were collected on the same time frame, and very precise, probably minute by minute weather data is collected, all to feed into the production of models that will help growers manage these diseases. Next year, we're going to get more engaged with farmers and consultants in this process. They will be the end users. And so I just wanted to share this slide because it shows how we utilize what we call citizen scientists, farmers collaborating with researchers, with on-field, in-farm research. And so the one scientist here has a white shirt, Natasha Van Gestel at Texas Tech University. And this is a collaboration to collect data and detailed soil analysis to improve soil health with limited water, something that's extremely difficult, but we will be including consultants and farmers in the National Predictive Modeling Tool Initiative. So the next technology, digital technology I want to talk about has been referenced a couple times. And it is a wonderful effort that's come out of ICAC, and particularly a committee called the SEAP Committee, which is quite literally, or quite briefly, the Sustainability Committee within ICAC. And this is a digital tool, particularly for growers that have limited literacy. So many of the digital tools are designed for people that are highly literate. And we wanted to make sure that reduced literacy farmers, which represent a big chunk of the world, had access to the innovations that are coming along. And the original genesis from the Sustainability Committee was to help those farmers improve their soil health. And it was clear that the developing country farmers need better soil health. A lot of that is rain-fed areas, and so you can see the benefits in with better soil health, with protecting the surface residue and keeping the biological function of that soil active year-round. The first four of those are all water-related, wonderful benefits of soil health, but also nutrient availability and reducing the loss of soil from erosion. But also we have the broader societal benefits of reducing blowing dust, a critical issue in many farming communities, and sequestering carbon that Ibrokhim mentioned. When we got into creating this soil health app, it was really evident, and we had excellent leadership from Sanjay Kranthi and her husband Keshav on recognizing that farmers needed unified apps and tools, not just one for soil health and one for fertility, but the illiterate, semi-literate farmers would benefit from something that included soil health and diagnosis and recommendations, weather, and markets. And so the soil app was created to be very broad, reaching for developing country farmers with limited literacy. And creating something without words, with just pictures and voice, turned out to be a tremendous challenge. Fortunately, Keshav is a tremendous cartoonist, and so it's created with both voice and cartoons that guide growers to useful information. Here, just talking about crusting in dry soil conditions and how cover crops and surface residue help minimize the crusting. But for the literate farmers that want to use this, also a PDF with references and more detailed information is available. But the focus is the limited literacy farmers. But creating this, even though it tried to be simple from the standpoint of utilization, it took a lot of back office room to work with the wonderful software engineers in India to create this. It currently is being, a beta version is being tested in India, and at the end I'll give you a link to where you can identify that beta version if you'd like to play around with it. So the third digital technology is one that's for the mechanized world, for those areas that use modern machine harvesting for cotton. And I do want to recognize again Ed Barnes and the effort of USDA, John Wanura, and North Carolina State University at Jason Ward for this technology, which links the field to the downstream yield and quality. And again, we work closely with the users. These are the 4 GINs that collaborated in this area, helping evaluate different versions in their GINs and providing guidance and leadership. So thank you to these GINs across the US. So a cotton harvester is in that small picture in the middle. This is the only harvester available for purchase in the US, and it creates a round module during the picking. In fact, you can see in that picture, there's one module being carried in a cradle on the back, and there's one being created at that time in the middle of that machine. It's a very expensive machine, but it's the only one we have right now for purchase. We're really fortunate that the designers of that machine into that wrap put an RFID, radio frequency identification tag into that wrap and build in the software to collect data during the harvest. And probably the most important piece of information is that these yellow dots represent where a module has been completed and is being wrapped. And that is recorded with a timestamp, a GPS stamp, and obviously the date. But that machine also records the weight of that module, and it records the moisture content of the module and where that module is dropped. And where it's dropped is the red dot. But with the various dots, you can line up the exact area that was harvested in each of these round modules. And with the grower cooperating, one can get the variety as well with that, with this analysis. So the RFID tag, and let me just back up so make sure you understand, the RFID tag is read by the machine when that module is made, and then when the module is hauled to the GIN, it's read again. You can see in the left that bar at the scale that reads the RFID tag and enters that information into the GIN's computer. And then the module is stored on the yard until it's ready to be GIN'd. And at the time when that module is being fed into the GIN, you can see that pink module in the middle. It's again, the RFID tag is being read. And that's critical because the engineers have done the mass balance so they can then associate the permanent bale identification tags on the bale with the module that's going into it. And you can now assign the permanent bale tag to that module, which takes it back to the field and the harvest system. We do have some redundancy and backups in the pink. On the left there, you can see that you can use a portable RFID tag reader to monitor that tag, but also you can use an iPhone, smartphone to scan the barcode as well. So a little bit of a redundancy. Now this is just a powerful tool for growers during the harvest season because they're obviously very concerned about these expensive modules, where they're going, where they're located, and having these RFID tag information allows the identification of exactly where that valuable asset is located at any one time and provides that information to the GIN and the grower and the people that are moving the modules. But the real strength of this system is the digital data flows both forward and backwards. So if you look at the harvester, then that module with the RFID tag is then read at the feeding into the gin. It's associated with the bale, and a bale in the US, each one is classed, it gets a USDA class. And so we have that quality and yield association with the harvesting. And it also works backwards because the classing, which includes the permanent bale identification and HVI, is linked to the module and linked to the location in the field. So information flows both up and down, and you can see how this can feed into the textile mills and also into the consumers. Valuable information that goes above and beyond HVI, knowing exactly where that module was, that bale was produced. And for the consumer, he will want to know, he and she want more knowledge about how that cotton was grown and where it was grown. Here's a graphical representation of how that information looks. You can see on the left, the yellow lines, each of those represent a different round module being produced, and then it's associated with the yield. And we have low yields are red, and that comes directly from the weight and area of each of those modules as they're produced in the field. But for me as a scientist and manager of science, the real excitement is tying in the fiber quality into that same field. And here, for instance, you can see micronair, because I look at that and I see parts of that field are a lot redder and parts are a lot greener. And that would clue that maybe there's something going on in that field that needs to be looked at very carefully, such as verticillium wilt or potassium deficiency that's impacting the micronair, or perhaps telling the grower that in future years, he needs to plant varieties with different micronairs in that different parts of the field, or even split the field. But the information is very powerful. Just some of the benefits and as we know with any technology, once you get it in the hands of users, they discover the true benefit. Farmers particularly are innovative and clever, and if you give them a new tool, they'll come up with new ways to use it. So these are just some we're thinking about now, but obviously being able to identify low income parts of a field, and income is quality and yield. That allows the grower to focus his attention on areas that are low profit and low income. And he may want to convert that to a non-crop. We have an effort going on in the US to take low profit areas and take them out of production and put them into habitat for wildlife. It also allows the producer to line up the yield and quality with every other input that he has a precision record on. And much of the fertilizer and chemicals, growth regulators are now being applied with precision scripts or application methods that then can be overlaid with the quality and yield and look whether something was wrong, something went right, something needs to be adjusted. Also, on-farm testing is facilitated. Farmers need to continue to optimize their inputs and select best varieties. And this is one way that gives them a relatively easy tool to look at yield and quality as they change inputs. The ginners love it because, as we know, moisture is a critical issue for ginning. And we have not only the ability to measure these modules, the moisture content, but the time of day they were built. And in the round modules, they preserve moisture, whether it's high or low, for a fairly long time once they're made. So it helps on moisture management. And as I alluded to, the ability of the consumer to ask questions about the production is enhanced at least all the way to the spinning mill, where yarns or different bills are blended in making a laydown, but at least some of the bales you can identify right back to the field. So let me put on the, so you can all see and go back and get the resources, the web links to the National Predictive Modeling Tool Initiative on the left. And again, the beta version that's being tested in India, and I'll caution this is very much a beta version. So please don't share it widely, but look at it and provide comments. But it's not ready for full time. It's a beta version. And then the third is where we put our grower facing information, outreach information, is cotton cultivated, and you can just type in RFID and you'll find that research. Let me conclude with another very recent, exciting reason for farmers to need to be involved in digital activities. And this was the announcement last week that Europe is investing in what's called a digital twin of the Earth at a 1 kilometer module scale. Very, very exciting, because our weather models currently are set at a 10 kilometer scale. And so this then allows weather and climate calculations with supercomputers that can then model a cloud or an eddy current or the upwelling. The current models don't give you very good rainfall forecast because of the scale of 10 kilometers, but 1 kilometer scientists are really excited about improving weather forecast for farmers, but also for long-range understanding of climate change. So farmers need to tie into digital, if for no other reason, just to be able to access this wonderful resource that Europe is contributing. So with that, let me put also the links for Dr. Barnes and myself on the chat room. Mention that we are in the 50th year of Cotton Incorporated, a wonderful celebration this year. We did it remotely, and so I'm really happy to be a part of World Cotton Day with you all, and I look forward to seeing you all in person October of next year in Sharm el-Sheikh. So thank you, Kai. I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Keita. Thank you very much.